Imagine someone in your life trying to pull you into chaos, and you don't even blink. You just stay calm. That silence? It's terrifying for them. Today, I'm going to reveal 10 silent moves that make toxic people completely lose their grip without you ever raising your voice or losing your composure. You've felt it before, right? That person who thrives on your anger, your panic, your reaction, and suddenly, one day, you stop reacting. You stop playing their game. That's when the real confusion begins. These moves aren't about confrontation. They're about strategy, subtlety, and power that comes from calm control. The first silent move, mastering silence, is deceptively simple but profoundly effective against toxic people because it removes the very fuel they rely on, your emotional reaction. Toxic individuals thrive on chaos, manipulation, and provocation. They feed on the discomfort they create. When you choose silence instead of reacting, you deny them that satisfaction, which in turn disrupts their sense of control. This isn't about ignoring someone or being passive. It's about deliberate, conscious restraint. By pausing before responding, you create a space where their manipulative words hang in the air, making them feel unsettled and uncertain. Silence communicates that you are neither vulnerable nor easily influenced, signaling strength in a way that words often cannot. It forces them to recalibrate because their usual tactics, which might include guilt-tripping, gaslighting, or aggressive persuasion, no longer yield the desired effect. Over time, repeated practice of strategic silence also builds your own emotional resilience. You begin to notice triggers without automatically reacting, and this awareness allows you to maintain inner calm regardless of external pressure. Furthermore, silence can act as a subtle mirror. It reflects their intensity back at them, leaving them confused and questioning their approach. Importantly, mastering silence is about timing and intention. It's not about freezing in fear or pretending not to hear. It's about choosing when to engage and when to step back, demonstrating control without confrontation. Even brief pauses or delayed responses can be powerful because they disrupt the rhythm the toxic person expects. In essence, silence becomes a tool of empowerment. By consciously withholding immediate reactions and observing rather than reacting, you create an invisible barrier that toxic people cannot easily breach, leaving them disoriented, frustrated, and unable to manipulate you as they normally would. This first move sets the foundation for all other silent strategies, making it the cornerstone of confusing and neutralizing toxic behavior. The second silent move, controlling your body language, is a subtle yet powerful way to confuse toxic people because much of human communication is nonverbal. Toxic individuals often rely on reading cues, facial expressions, gestures, posture, or nervous habits to manipulate and provoke reactions. When your body language remains calm, composed, and neutral, it signals that their attempts to unsettle you are ineffective. Maintaining relaxed posture, steady breathing, and even eye contact communicates confidence and self-assuredness without a single word. A slight nod or a neutral expression can convey attentiveness without giving away emotional vulnerability, leaving the toxic person unsure of your thoughts or intentions. The consistency of your nonverbal signals is crucial. If you appear tense, fidgety, or reactive, they will detect it immediately and exploit it. However, when your body language is controlled, it creates unpredictability. They cannot anticipate how you will respond, which undermines their strategies of intimidation, guilt, or manipulation. Even minor adjustments like uncrossing arms to show openness or leaning back slightly to assert space can disrupt their perception of control. Controlled body language works in tandem with silence. Together, they create an unshakable presence that is difficult to manipulate. Importantly, this move requires self-awareness and practice. Observing yourself in mirrors or recordings can help you identify unconscious signals that might give away emotional reactions. Over time, your body's natural default becomes one of calm neutrality, making toxic individuals increasingly uncertain about their influence over you. They begin to question whether their usual tactics are effective or if they are simply projecting control where there is none. By mastering controlled body language, you communicate power, stability, and self-possession silently, leaving toxic people confused, frustrated, and forced to reconsider their approach, which strengthens your ability to navigate challenging interactions without verbal confrontation. The third silent move, non-defensive listening, is a crucial strategy for dealing with toxic people because it neutralizes their attempts to provoke emotional reactions. Toxic individuals often rely on eliciting anger, guilt, or fear to manipulate or control you, and the moment you respond defensively, you give them power. Non-defensive listening is about absorbing their words without reacting impulsively or emotionally, creating a buffer between their tactics and your responses. This doesn't mean you agree with what they are saying or condone their behavior. It means you acknowledge the words without allowing them to dictate your emotional state. By practicing this form of listening, you maintain clarity and composure, which can be incredibly disorienting for someone who expects drama or conflict. It requires focused attention and inner discipline, as the instinct to defend oneself is strong. You might hear accusations, criticism, or manipulative statements, but instead of lashing out, you allow the words to pass through without giving them weight. Techniques such as silently nodding, maintaining calm eye contact, or waiting a moment before responding can reinforce your neutral stance. This approach also encourages the toxic person to reveal more of their strategies or intentions because they unconsciously attempt harder to provoke a reaction. Over time, they realize that their usual methods of intimidation or guilt no longer work, which diminishes their influence. Non-defensive listening also allows you to gather valuable information, recognize patterns in their behavior, and respond strategically rather than impulsively. It strengthens your emotional boundaries, making it easier to apply other silent moves effectively. In essence, non-defensive listening transforms a potentially draining interaction into a position of power, leaving the toxic person frustrated and uncertain, and it reinforces your control over your own emotional state while navigating manipulation with quiet strength. The fourth silent move, selective responses, is a highly effective strategy because toxic people rely on overwhelming you with their demands, criticisms, or manipulations, often expecting immediate, emotional replies. By choosing your responses carefully and sparingly, you disrupt their expectations and take back control of the interaction. Selective responses are not about ignoring reality or being passive. They are about intentional communication. You respond only when necessary, using minimal words that convey your point without giving away emotional energy or opening the door for further manipulation. This approach removes the usual hooks toxic individuals use to pull you into arguments, guilt trips, or power struggles. It requires self-discipline and awareness, as the natural impulse is often to defend yourself, justify your actions, or explain your perspective at length. Instead, you keep your responses short, precise, and neutral, creating a sense of calm authority that is confusing for someone who thrives on drama. Over time, this practice changes the dynamic of your interactions. Toxic individuals begin to realize that their usual tactics, blame, provocation, or manipulation, no longer yield the results they expect. They become uncertain, hesitant, and frustrated because the predictable emotional reaction they count on is absent. Selective responses also protect your mental and emotional energy, allowing you to engage only on your own terms rather than constantly reacting to external pressure. Small phrases like "I understand," "noted," or simple acknowledgement without elaboration can be incredibly disarming when used strategically. This move also pairs well with silence and controlled body language, amplifying their effect because the combination of calm presence and measured speech denies the toxic person both verbal and non-verbal leverage. By mastering selective responses, you establish boundaries without confrontation and communicate strength subtly, leaving toxic people off balance and increasingly unsure of how to manipulate you. If you've ever been drained by someone's toxic behavior, pause this video, take a deep breath, and try just one of these moves today. Notice the effect it has. It's subtle, but it's powerful. The fifth silent move, subtle mirroring, is a powerful tool because it allows you to reflect a toxic person's behavior or words without engaging emotionally or escalating conflict. Toxic individuals are often highly attuned to the reactions of others, using emotional cues to manipulate, intimidate, or provoke. When you mirror them subtly, you create a reflection of their behavior, but in a controlled and neutral way that doesn't validate their tactics. For example, repeating a key phrase they say, maintaining similar tone or pace in conversation, or matching minor gestures without exaggeration can create a sense of familiarity while keeping your own emotional state untouched. This technique works because it disrupts their expectations. They anticipate a reactive response, anger, defensiveness, or guilt. But when they encounter a calm reflection instead, they become uncertain and disoriented. Subtle mirroring doesn't mean mimicking in an obvious or mocking way. The key is neutrality and restraint. It sends a silent signal that you are present and attentive, but not manipulated or controlled. This also allows you to gather insights into their patterns of speech and behavior, which can inform your strategy in managing interactions. Additionally, mirroring can create a sense of empathy or connection that diffuses tension without compromising your boundaries. The toxic person may unconsciously perceive a cooperative stance, which diminishes their need to escalate or provoke further. Over time, consistent use of this technique subtly undermines their manipulative tactics because they realize their usual strategies are ineffective. Subtle mirroring strengthens your presence in conversations by combining awareness, calm control, and strategic reflection, creating a psychological environment where the toxic individual cannot easily predict or influence your behavior. It's a quiet, invisible form of power that leaves them unsure of how to respond while keeping you firmly grounded in your own composure. The sixth silent move, strategic absence, is a highly effective tactic because it removes you from the toxic person's reach without confrontation, creating confusion and discomfort for them. Toxic individuals thrive on constant interaction, attention, and emotional responses, using them as tools to manipulate and control. By deliberately stepping away, whether physically, emotionally, or digitally, you deny them the access they rely on, which immediately disrupts their sense of control. Strategic absence is not about avoidance out of fear. It is a conscious, deliberate choice to preserve your energy and maintain boundaries. It can take many forms, such as leaving a conversation before it escalates, taking time away from interactions that feel draining, or limiting engagement on platforms where toxic behavior occurs. This move works because the absence itself is a message. It signals that you are not available for manipulation and that your attention cannot be leveraged against you. Toxic people often respond with confusion, frustration, or even attempts to regain control. But when the absence is consistent and intentional, they begin to realize their usual tactics are ineffective. Strategic absence also allows you to reset emotionally, giving you the space to respond from a place of calm rather than reaction. It helps you reclaim mental clarity and reinforces the idea that your boundaries are non-negotiable. Over time, This technique teaches the toxic individual that they cannot rely on your immediate presence or emotional engagement, which undermines their confidence in controlling you. Additionally, it pairs well with other silent moves such as selective responses, non-defensive listening, and controlled body language, amplifying the overall effect. By using strategic absence thoughtfully, you create a powerful psychological barrier, leaving the toxic person uncertain and unable to predict your behavior, while simultaneously empowering yourself to navigate the interaction on your own terms. The seventh silent move, consistent boundaries, is essential for confusing toxic people because it communicates stability and predictability in the face of their chaos. Toxic individuals often exploit ambiguity and inconsistency, testing limits to see how far they can push someone. By quietly and consistently enforcing your boundaries, you remove the uncertainty they rely on to manipulate or provoke reactions. This consistency is key. It isn't about yelling, arguing, or demanding compliance. It's about calmly upholding your rules every single time. When a toxic person realizes that their usual tactics, guilt, intimidation, or emotional appeals no longer make you bend or react, they become uncertain and frustrated. Establishing consistent boundaries also signals self-respect and internal strength, which cannot easily be undermined. The practice requires knowing your limits clearly, whether in terms of time, emotional energy, or personal values, and adhering to them without justification. For instance, if someone repeatedly calls at inappropriate times, consistently ignoring the calls or responding only during agreed-upon periods reinforces that boundary without escalating conflict. Similarly, if a toxic person tries to manipulate you with criticism or blame, calmly redirecting or refusing to engage communicates that their behavior has no effect on you. Over time, consistent boundaries erode the toxic person's sense of control because they can no longer predict how you will respond, and their usual methods fail. This move also protects your mental and emotional well-being, creating a stable environment where manipulation is minimized. When paired with silence, selective responses, and controlled body language, consistent boundaries become even more potent, establishing a framework in which the toxic individual is left confused, powerless, and questioning their own actions. By quietly and reliably upholding your limits, you turn the table, making your calm and controlled presence a formidable defense against manipulation. The eighth silent move, redirecting focus, is a subtle yet highly effective strategy because it shifts the power dynamic without confrontation, leaving toxic people unsettled. Toxic individuals often center conversations around negativity, criticism, or manipulation to maintain control and provoke emotional reactions. By deliberately steering the discussion toward neutral or positive topics, you deny them the influence they seek and regain control over the interaction. This move requires awareness and quick thinking, as you need to recognize when the conversation is being hijacked and decide where to guide it instead. Redirecting focus is not about ignoring issues entirely. It is about choosing which battles are worth engaging in and which are not, allowing you to conserve emotional energy. For example, if someone starts criticizing your choices, you might calmly shift the topic to a shared task, a neutral observation, or a positive outcome, subtly signaling that their negativity will not dominate the space. This redirection disorients toxic people because it breaks the rhythm they expect, where every word would normally trigger a reactive response from you. Over time, consistent redirection reduces their ability to manipulate you as they realize that emotional provocation no longer produces results. This technique also reinforces other silent moves, such as selective responses and non-defensive listening, because it complements the strategy of maintaining calm and controlled engagement. By combining redirection with neutral body language and strategic silence, You create interactions that are predictable in your boundaries, but unpredictable in the flow, leaving toxic individuals frustrated and uncertain. Additionally, redirecting focus allows you to protect the emotional atmosphere around you, creating a space where constructive conversation, problem-solving, or simple calm coexistence is possible, rather than being dominated by manipulation. It empowers you to guide interactions proactively, subtly shifting control away from the toxic person while maintaining your composure and authority. In conclusion, dealing with toxic people doesn't require confrontation, anger, or endless explanations. By mastering these 8 silent moves, silence, controlled body language, non-defensive listening, selective responses, subtle mirroring, strategic absence, consistent boundaries, and redirecting focus, you gain quiet yet undeniable power. Each move works by removing the fuel toxic individuals depend on: your emotional reactions, your predictability, and your attention. When applied consistently, these strategies confuse, frustrate, and disarm them, leaving them unsure of how to manipulate or provoke you. More importantly, these moves empower you to reclaim control over your emotional space, protect your energy, and navigate interactions with calm authority. They transform moments of tension into opportunities for composure, demonstrating that true power lies not in aggression or argument, but in subtlety, restraint, and self-mastery. Toxic people may attempt to test you, but when you respond with these silent strategies, you create a psychological barrier they cannot easily penetrate. Ultimately, the goal isn't to change them, but to change the way you engage, shifting from reaction to control, from vulnerability to strength, and from chaos to clarity. By embracing these silent moves, you not only protect yourself, but you also send a clear message that your peace, boundaries, and composure are non-negotiable, leaving toxic individuals baffled and powerless while you stand quietly unshakable.